indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we want to start off with a roll call.
Here.
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 Here. Returning officer and zoning.
Right. All right, our first application listed here is application Z 2024-01, and it is being continued at the request of the township. Is that being continued to May 16th? Is it just? Okay. Do we have to make a motion on that, or is just make a motion to approve this application being continued to May 16th? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
All right, motion carries. Next application on the agenda here is Z 2024-02, Martin K. Powell, care of Rotelle Development, 1011 Ridge Road. This is for the property located at 14 Phillips Lane. This applicant is seeking variance relief from sections 172-100.25 to allow for a single-family home to be built. This is also an application that was continued from last month. So let's, we have to get anyone sworn in here again if it was continued, or? And then do we have our party protestants that we're here from? Can we have the party protestants move forward? The same three party protestants. I just want to make sure that if you have any questions, that everybody's at least in front of a microphone. So I'll let you all share over here, so. All right. And I guess we're ready to move forward here then, so.
Yeah, if the board, please. My name is John Mahoney. I was here last month, and I am the one who requested a continuance of the hearing after having presented 3 exhibits. And I'll be continuing the presentation of evidence in support of the variance application with the testimony of Bryn, B-R-Y-N-N, Schaefer, S-C-H-A-E-F-F-E-R, professional engineer who remains under oath because he started testifying last month. Mr. Schaefer, before the audience and the board is an electronic copy of a revised grading permit and erosion control plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was that prepared because the township engineer suggested the installation of a swale along the adjacent property owned by Mr. Tomlinson and Ms. Kim?
Yes, among other comments in that letter.
Okay, so let's get to the highlighting of the revisions that have been made at the suggestion of the township engineer. Would you highlight those for us, please?
The most significant revision was the addition of a swale along the southwest property line. The dwelling and the grading was slightly adjusted to accommodate that. And I think the other comments from the township were mostly notation adjustments and so forth.
Let's talk about the swale then. We have a number of notes on sheet 1 of Exhibit A4, and I have a paper copy of the document for the solicitor or the township staff. There is an indication that there are stormwater easements in favor of the township, allowing the township access to the property, but not imposing an obligation to maintain the stormwater management related improvements that are proposed. Is that correct?
Yes.
There is also, and there was in the version of the plans that was reviewed by the board last month, an infiltration basin. Is that correct?
Yes, an stormwater infiltration facility, correct.
All right. Well, I used the word basin and maybe I shouldn't have. So what's the difference between the infiltration feature that is depicted on this plan and a more typical basin that looks like it's been dug out by a back.
Well, a basin typically has is a term that's used to describe a stormwater pond that has a significant berm to impound the water. So this is more of a low profile feature that we've, designed here in order to navigate the steep slopes for construction.
This is going to be difficult, but I'll just, is the swale that was added to from facing the proposed dwelling from Phillips Lane? Is it along the left side, if you will, of the boundary line of the property?
Yes.
How deep is the swale? Proposed swale? You're looking at somebody else's plan.
No. Yeah, and I'm just looking for the detail. I didn't know off the top of my head what the depth of it was.
I think you told me before it's about 1 feet.
Yeah, it shouldn't be much different than that. Yeah, it's probably around a foot deep.
Okay, but just so we're clear, there is a portion of this Exhibit A4 immediately above the lettering at the very bottom on the left half. It reads infiltration, trench, and berm detail, and then immediately above that, there is a schematic drawing of that which is proposed. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that we've got a swale on the left side, if you will, left boundary of the property near the Tomlinson and Kim property, and it leads directly to an area that is a infiltration trench. Is that correct?
Right.
And I see that there's, looks like a long rectangular feature of about 264 feet in length. That's labeled as an inspection port. What is an inspection port?
Yeah, well, the stone trench is about 140 feet long, and it would have inside of it a perforated distribution pipe. And for that, there would be inspection ports rising vertically up through the stone so that, it could be inspected from time to time.
So my question was erroneous in that I was calling out a number that appears to be the elevation, not the length of this infiltration trench. Is that correct? Or
Yes.
inspection port?
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we have notes on the plan that says infiltration trench installation sequence. Is that, what is the purpose of providing a prescribed sequence of installation?
That's provided to ensure the success of the installation, that it's done properly and will operate properly as designed.
Immediately above those plan notes are 8 enumerated plan notes indicating the sequence of construction. Similar purpose?
Yes, so the sequence for the detail is specific to the detail of the stormwater infiltration facility. But then there's a site-wide construction sequence as well.
And then there's also an infiltration trench maintenance schedule with a number of points. The purpose of inclusion of those notes is to accomplish what goal?
That is to indicate what maintenance actions and schedules should be taken by the owner of the property.
So at the township engineer's suggestion, you added a swale to the property. Did it change any of the calculations of the extent to which steep or very steep slope disturbance is proposed?
Yes, so when we made the plan adjustments, we also did some very minor shifting of some of the home and the driveway. And we were able to, I think the numbers are pretty much the same. We actually had a slight reduction in the overall disturbance of slope.
The plan, which is before the audience and has multiple pages, but I've marked it collectively as Exhibit A4. To whom has that plan been provided?
That plan was submitted to the township, and the neighbor's engineer, Mr. DeFonso at Powell Engineering.
And was a copy also sent to the Delaware County Conservation District?
There was a copy sent of an earlier version of the plan to the Delaware County Conservation District.
But assuming we are successful in getting variance relief and conditional use approval, you would agree that a Conservation District letter of adequacy would have to be issued approving the plan, which is marked as Exhibit A4, is that correct?
Right, so typically what happens if there's a plan change after the Conservation District gives you an approval letter, we send them a courtesy copy of the updated plan to give them the opportunity to review again.
I'm showing you a document which are pre-marked as Exhibit A5, and I'll start with a little bit of background. There was a plan that was discussed during the last month's meeting, another drawing that was associated with the proposal to build a residential structure on this lot. Is that correct?
Yes,
That was dated, is that a grading permit and stormwater operation and maintenance plan for the Howell, Howell, residence at 14 Phillips Lane?
yeah, I believe it just has one L though.
Okay,
The
one
plan
L.
that I'm seeing here, so.
All right, so we got that from counsel for the neighbor, is that correct? Or their engineer?
That's, we got that,
I gave it to you,
you gave it to me,
and I didn't make it up.
yeah,
All right,
so.
so you got it. What observations have you made once you took a look at the OTM LLC plan that was last revised December 24, 2019? A copy of which was made, I think, an exhibit by a protestant and is in the record.
Yeah, so the plans are extremely similar in the location of the house and the stormwater facility. And the grading arrangement is very similar as well. The amount of disturbance is very similar between the two plans.
Problems with the plan?
Well, on sheet 2, they had listed some disturbance areas. And when I looked at the plan, I thought, I wondered why the numbers they had displayed were different than what we were calculating because of the similarity, the plans were so similar. So we digitized that and used some drafting software to recalculate what those areas would be from the OTM plan. And what we found was that it appears that the numbers that they listed on sheet 2 for the disturbance were not accurate.
And I see a concluding or penultimate paragraph in your letter, and I'll just highlight the main conclusions. You found that the listed disturbances are inaccurate, that the plan, not the plan you prepared, but the plan that was prepared by OTM 4.5 years ago, actually proposed disturbances of slopes of 15 to 25% of approximately 24,800 feet, which would equate to 41% of the lot area. Is that correct?
Well, it would equate to 41% of that range of slope disturbance.
That range of slope disturbance. Okay. And then the disturbance of slopes exceeding 25% were computed on that plan as 24.7% by you. That's your calculation, whereas the disturbance listed on the plan was only 21.5%. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the total amount of disturbance of steep slopes on this other plan, not the one you prepared, was calculated to be approximately 33,000 square feet, I assume, which is very close to the amount that is proposed in the plan that you prepared. Is that correct?
Yes.
The plan that was proposed or prepared by your company last revised in March was at that time 29,300 square feet. Is that correct?
That's the current slope disturbance.
Okay, and our last revised, our last revision date for this plan is April 12, 2024. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that is the plan that was provided to the township engineer,
Yes.
showing you a document which has been marked as Exhibit A6. Appears to be a township engineer review letter issued by Pannoni. Associates, Inc. April 17. And I have to say, Pinoni got this out pretty quickly. It arrived yesterday. You've had a chance to take a look at it?
Yes.
I see that there are 7 enumerated comments on the letter. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
That's right.
Let's try to address the last one and then we'll get to the first 6. The last note says the applicant shall comply with review comments of the township arborist. We don't have those comments yet, do we?
No, we do not.
So with that exception, are the directives and comments provided in this review letter of April 17 satisfactory? And I'll use the vernacular will comply.
Yes.
In summary, then, would you say that the installation of the stormwater management berm was a constructive suggestion made by the township engineer and provides additional protection so as to assure other property owners that there won't be adverse consequences should the variance relief as requested be granted? Is that correct?
Yeah, the swale along the left line of the property. Sure.
Okay. Anything else that you want to add for the zoning hearing board's consideration?
At this time.
Thank you. I'll make the witness available for questioning.
Thank you. I think you those party protection. So going back to the I have some additional copies. I only have one copy originally. We passed these out. Where is that okay?
Sure.
Right, but I mean, yeah, you're correct. The market is protestants 1.
I do. Thank you. No, thanks, Matt.
But if I understand your testimony correctly, you indicated that the proposed dwelling on Protestants 1 is similar in location to what's proposed on what's now applicants 4,
Yes.
and has similar stormwater management features.
Yeah, it has, well, it's in approximately the same location.
Okay, and it's the footprint of the proposed home on P1 is smaller than what's proposed on T4, is that correct?
Yes.
And you've revised, or you've relooked at the calculations that were provided on page 2. Is it your testimony that A4 has less of a disturbance than what is provided on P1?
Yes.
So the 15 to 20, I'm just trying to make sure I understand, the 15 to 25% slopes, your plan, A4 is proposing 41% disturbance,
Correct.
and you believe that the P1 plan is about 41% as well?
So no, wait, let me go. The P1 plan is 41%. The A4 plan is 36.1.
Of the 15 to 25% slopes?
Correct.
And how about the 25% slopes? What's the difference between the two plans?
The
Or 25% and greater slopes?
Yeah. 25% greater and greater slopes. The A4 plan is 30.9. And the, was it P4?
P1.
P1 plan is 24.7. So one of them is slightly higher and the other one is slightly lower.
Okay, so the A4 plan still disturbs more of the 25% or greater slopes than the P1 plan?
Yeah, a little bit more. Mhm.
Okay. So overall, there's still a lesser variance required with the P1 plan than the A4 plan?
Well, I mean, the allowable The allowable. The allowable from 15 to 25% is 15%, so both. Both plans exceed that. The P1 plan exceeds that by a greater amount. And then the 25% allowable is 5%, and they both exceed that. And then the A4 plan exceeds that one by a little bit.
So on your A4 plan, there's I believe a chart on page 1 that indicates slope tabulations.
Yes.
And at least the version that I have that I'm working off of indicates 41% disturbance of the 15 to 25% slopes.
So there was a revised one on April 12th, where that was calculated at 36.1%, not 41%.
Is
I
that
think
on the,
41% was the prior.
okay, but so on the April 12th plan, which I believe is A4, and I'm working off the version that was attached to the agenda, there's a slope tabulation. I don't have a hard copy in front of me. Is that the one that I'm
Okay,
seeing
so, yeah,
shows 41%? Is that calculation incorrect or?
no, that was from so what happened was when the plan was revised, the slope tabulation wasn't immediately updated and a plan was circulated. It was incorrect. And then that was corrected and then it was recirculated.
Okay, so there was a plan that was circulated with a revision date of April 12th that had
That had
incorrect slope, and then that was subsequently updated.
Yes. Yeah.
So the version that was attached to the township website is different than the version of A4 that you submitted now.
I didn't see the one that was attached to.
Okay. Was that the same one that which version did the township engineer review?
He was given right after the one with the typo was on, we immediately resubmitted the other one. So I don't know which one he reviewed.
Would you like a copy of A4?
That would be great.
There you go.
No, thank you, John.
Sure.
Gave us the new drawings you gave us tonight, the new tabulations are, so I think that puts confusing.
Yeah.
Fair- fair-
I'm not sure which plan is being.
That's plan that's up, I believe, is the plan that was you presented last month with the 41% tabulation, right? And the new plan that we have tonight is the new one, which is 30, whatever that number is. So I think he's
36.1%.
looking.
Yeah,
at
I think the
plan.
one that's on the screen that was attached to the agenda had the revisions that Mr. Schaefer has testified to. It just didn't have the updated slope
Right, yes.
tabulation. It still
That's what I'm
showed.
saying. They're
the
saying,
numbers
you're
from the
saying
last
it's 41, that's what they're saying.
Correct, okay.
I know I was pointing to a swale a few minutes ago.
So the last time we were here last month, you weren't sure as to the exact square footage of the home that was being proposed. Were you able to investigate that and determine what the square footage of the structure was going to be?
Are you referring to the livings?
Yeah, so
Total square?
I think we
I don't-
agreed that the footprint was 3,250
Yeah, no, I
square
didn't.
feet. And, you know, it's proposed to be probably a 2-story home, but I believe your testimony was, you know, you didn't have the architectural, so you couldn't, you know, guarantee that it was, you know, 6,500 square feet or so. Were you able to investigate that any
No, I
further?
was not.
Okay. Are you aware of the size of the other homes along Phillips Lane?
I've seen them in the aerial, yeah,
In
but
the
I
air-
didn't take any measurements on
Okay.
any of them.
Have you been to this property?
Yes,
And so you would have come down Phillips Lane? You think that those homes were bigger or smaller than 6,000 square feet?
I think that, the footprints of those homes are about the same size or larger than the home that we're proposing.
All of those, all along Phillips Lane?
I don't know if I looked at every single one of them. I looked at the ones adjacent.
Okay. The original plan that you submitted, how many sheets was that?
I don't recall. I
Well,
don't have
just-
that one in front of me.
Was it a 2-sheet or a 3-sheet plan, do you know?
Sorry.
Don't recall?
I don't remember what it was. We do so many of these plans.
All right, I don't think I have any further questions, Mr. Schaefer.
Any of the additional party contestants, any questions? Mr. Augustine, if you want to stay at the table and choose the mic, you can.
One comment, Paul Seligson, 4727 Mill Hollow Lane. I have one comment and one question. The comment is, I still don't understand if it's allowed on that piece of property for 15% of steep slopes to be disturbed, why we're still considering 36%. It used to be 41, and I appreciate that the number's coming down, but to my mind, it's just way quantum leap too high. And also for the very steep slopes, they're allowed 5%. And we're talking 33.5 or something like that percent. And I think that we should stay to the rules and regulations and the ordinances that we have. That's my comment. But I would like to know, the previous developer who owned this property sold it and didn't develop it. And I'm curious, what happened? Was he stopped at this zoning process or what happened there?
I mean, I don't know the answers there. I mean, for you now with questions for any,
Oh,
cross-examine the witness, but to answer that question, no one
okay.
here on the board can answer that.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay.
Percentage did you do a calculation of the usable lot, part of the lot that's within the building envelope that's unencumbered
By steep slope regulations.
by steep or very steep?
Thank you.
Yes, I did do, at the prior hearing, I did have that calculation with me, and I grabbed an updated file that didn't have that with me. So I'm gonna go off my recollection of that, and I know it was under 10%, may have been somewhere in the range of 5%.
If you like, you can take a look at the other plan prior.
Yeah, I didn't note that figure on there. I had it in
Oh.
my handwritten notes.
Okay, thank you. Very little was not constrained. Or almost all of
Correct,
it is
yes.
constrained by steep slopes.
Right, and you can see that by the shading. The dashed line is the building envelope, and then the darker shading is the 25% plus slopes, and then the lighter shading is the 15 to 25% slopes. And you can see that within the building envelope, there's just a few tiny pockets of areas that are not constrained.
And the proposed dwelling is in the not as steep slope.
It is kind of so it's towards the front of the lot, so there's less disturbance of slope and less stormwater and less impervious. And then it's situated in the area that's the least steep of that portion of the site.
Is that responsive to your question? Thank you.
I have a related question. Sorry. Related, sorry. Similar question, so, and I think this is for the applicant's engineer and attorney. By developing the property, if today the property of 95% of that is either, steep or very steep slope, by developing the property and I guess essentially flattening it out and, doing grading around the home, does that improve the percent of the property that today is within that 95%? Like, does it end up being less slopes on the property? That's,
So, yeah, the driveway and the immediate grading around the house would have a gentler slope. And then so the slopes would basically, so a flat area would be padded out for the building. And then the building would be placed, and so there would be some more flat areas on the site once construction is.
and does that, in your opinion, slow down the impact of the speed at which the water would move down the slope, because it's not all pitched like back as much towards the creek?
So the areas that, the lawn areas that would be in the flatter areas in the front side of the house, the runoff from those areas in particular would be slower, correct?
Thank you.
No other witnesses from the applicant. Thank you. I move the admission of exhibits A1 through 6.
Yep, those are accepted. Any additional?
I don't have any additional testimony, I just have some documentary evidence that I asked the board to consider. I marked first exhibit P2. These are printouts of from the Delaware County Board of Assessment regarding property information for the properties on Phillips Lane. Highlighted the homes as represented by the board. I've included Mr. Tomlinson's house as well as the last page of this. I think there was a representation about a square footage last time for assessment.
Didn't we talk about that last time? Can you say about 11,000 square feet or something?
I think somebody said that. So I wanted to correct
Okay,
that.
that's fine.
And then lastly, this property was before, now I'll mark this as exhibit E3 for Tessence 3. This property was before the zoning hearing board in 2015, previously for similar variances of the same. And the board at that time, when they granted relief, posed a number of conditions regarding the property that if this board is inclined to grant relief, we think are appropriate for their consideration. Those include no further improvements, tree replacement issues, etc. I think the conditions all speak for themselves. But if the board is inclined to do anything, we would ask that they consider conditions that are commensurate and similar to what was previously imposed by the board on a smaller footprint house.
Have any conversations been had in the last month between the homeowner and any of the neighbors? Anything to try to come up with any plans to see what would satisfy everybody?
Not directly. I
Okay.
believe our engineers had some conversations with their engineer, but
I know at the end of the last meeting, it looked like I saw a couple people talking. I didn't know if that conversation was going to continue to bring something back here to have some options.
as of right now, as is presented, we're not opposed to the construction of a home on this dwelling, but as is presented, we are.
Okay.
The location.
So 45, 45, 57, so still, okay.
That was the applicant, property owner who was on the road. That's one.
Right.
I don't have anything else on behalf of Mr. Tomlinson. I'm moving for P1 through P3 to be.
No objection.
Yes, we accept. Yeah, so do we have any public comment, anything beyond what was presented from last month? Different from last month?
Cindy Mahalo, 87 Hunters Run. I'm a member of the Newtown Township EAC and I'm a Penn State Master Watershed Steward. I'd like to start by commenting on some of the major differences I saw between this plan and the last plan. One is if this plan did respond with an enumeration of the specifics about the trees to be removed. Last year at the last previous meeting, the applicant did not have that specific information. And while I'm on the EAC, not the Shade Tree Commission, shade trees are an integral, essential part of any stormwater management situation, and they contribute greatly to habitat and biodiversity. So from those perspectives, I am going to comment a lot on the tree removal. And I, certainly respect my colleague from the Shade Tree Commission to also speak on that. So if you look at the tree replacement tabulation, you'll see that the applicant has noted that there'll be the removal of 90 trees from this one lot. I would submit to you that if you review the plan closely, if you could enlarge this, and if you could go to the page where it shows the tree protection, I think it's the last page, you'll see you could enlarge that significantly. And center it, please. You can see every tree is indicated by a circle, and the ones with X's in the middle are those that are planned for removal. You'll notice that there are probably another, that's 90 trees. You'll notice that there are probably another 10 that will either have to be removed or will probably be irreversibly killed during construction because they're either in the line, I don't know why they weren't X'd out, or you can see there's 3 clustered there. A tree's roots go out further than its branches, and if you significantly harm those roots, you will probably kill the tree. You can also kill a tree by covering it with too much soil, and that is the case in some of the trees around that. So of those trees that are going to be removed, you can see on the document that there will be 9 trees over 30 inches in diameter. There will be 33 trees between 20 and 29 inches in diameter. The removal of 90 to 100 trees from any property will have a devastating impact on the stormwater runoff.
Can I ask a question, just to
Yes.
clarify in my own mind? I'm reading what you're saying, the replacement, he's taking down 90 trees
Yes,
and he's replacing them with 257 trees, of which 119 are large canopy trees. I mean, I would have to think that replacing it with 3 times as many trees, you would be really happy with that.
that is a very good point, and we are pleased that there is that he's following the replacement formula. However, if you think about it, yes, it says large canopy trees. Those are the species of the ultimate mature that it can reach a canopy. It will be a canopy. It's not a small decorative tree. But when these trees go in, and Andy, maybe you know the code, the replacement trees, I think, are 2 inches diameter breast height. So we're going to have 250 trees that are this big. A tree that is this big, it's a decent sized tree to plant, but it will be decades and decades before those trees begin to provide the ecosystem services that a mature tree does. A mature tree that is 30 inches in diameter can soak up or absorb, respirate thousands of gallons of water, far more than a small little tree like this will be. And yes, we're delighted that they would replace these trees. However, these trees will not be replaced on the property. We understand that the applicant has proposed to opt for a fee in lieu of, which means that he might plant some of these small trees on his property, and the rest he could either have planted elsewhere or do the fee in lieu of. If you look at this property, there really is very little place that he could plant the trees because it's either house or it's a new steep slope that will be built. So there's very little planned for that. So to wrap up the tree conversation, the number of trees that you're planning to remove would be devastating in any lot. You add that on to the fact that this is a steep and very steeply sloped lot with the really egregious amount of disturbance, you're going to have a really devastating impact on the stormwater runoff. And the final factor is this is immediately adjacent to Crum Creek. The back of the lot is in a floodplain. Crum Creek is one of the impaired streams in our township that is stated in the MS4 plan for remediation. The township is on the hook for millions of dollars that it will have to spend in the next few years to reduce the amount of impairment in Crum Creek and the other watersheds. The primary impairment in our township is silt and sedimentation. That's in the MS4 plan. So hopefully the stormwater infiltration system that he has here will work, which brings me to the next point. One of the things that concerns us is that if you read the operation and maintenance plans for this infiltration trench, yes, the engineer is right. It has to be constructed very carefully. It also requires constant inspections after every major storm, and there's different elements of the infiltration system, the stormwater management system, that it's specified in the plan that they have to be quarterly, semi-annual, annual inspections. We think that it would be appropriate to ask the applicant to commit to having an annual inspection by a certified licensed civil engineer, that he and the engineer, that he provides this inspection signed by a civil engineer every year and submits it to the township. This would be a supplement to the annual inspection that the township engineer will conduct. I'd like to also point out another difference, and that is the swale that, if you go back to the other picture that shows the swale, I have a question for the engineer. There's a swale that is designed to come down in front of the house, flow from the left to the right as you look at the house, circle around back, and then if you could enlarge that. Bigger, please. You know, we talked about, and this question kind of applies to both swales. I'd like to hear the engineer. This swale starts here. It runs the entire length of the property, gathering water, velocity, and volume, and then dumps into the infiltration trench. That is a lot of water that is going to be hitting that infiltration trench with tremendous velocity. I would like to know what structure you have that will slow down the water. From what I've read about infiltration trenches, they require pre-treatment, something buffering it, something slowing down the water and the infiltration before they get there.
Trench has a stone layer on top. So there is widen around the head so that sediments and so.
Is that geotextile in the infiltration trench? So it's underground. Okay. And then how often does that need to be inspected and the sediment removed?
So typically, we have the recommendations on here. Get that set up. There's a 3-inch river stone layer on top. That would be the only portion that sediment or leach field affected that way. Basically, going off. The main facility though would be affected. That layer and textiles.
So the 140-foot infiltration trench, what the homeowner will see from his house is grass, or it's the white
You will
rocks?
see all width band.
140 feet long. So I believe that according to the plans, that swale is going to be vegetated?
Yeah.
And that it's going to be, and by the way, I had your plans reviewed by a hydrogeologist, and he relayed a lot of these questions, which I had some of them myself. It says that the seeds specified for permanent planting in the special areas, AKA the swales, are red topper orchard grass. Neither one is native to North America, and orchard grass is considered an invasive species in some regions. It's my understanding that turf grass, like, would you imagine that this swale would be mowed? How would it be maintained weekly by a
We
landscaper?
provide the minimum specification. Basic.
But right now, you're proposing that it would be just like mowed grass.
We designed it so that it can.
But according to the.
Excuse me, I don't want to jump in here, but I feel like we are getting away from public comment and
Okay,
now you're coming off more
okay.
as a party for testing, which you are not.
Okay.
So
Okay, I'll
let's stay in
wrap it up.
line with public comment.
I also noticed that there is a grinder pump in the front yard, and that will pump the sewage up away from the house. And I think it would be reasonable to ask for a generator to be provided for that. Otherwise, if you have a storm and a loss of power, where is the sewage going to go? There's going to be no way to get the sewage from the low point by the house up out. So I think it'd be reasonable to ask for a generator for the grinder pump. Thank you. Well, if
Well, that's again, public comment, so that's fine. It's a public comment, so I don't want to. Do we have any other additional public comment, not cross-examining the witness?
Hi, Sheila O'Sullivan Beatty, 120 Beechwood Road, Newtown Square.
Can you say your name?
Sheila O'Sullivan Beatty, 120 Beechwood Road, Newtown Square. I'm also the chair of the EAC. It's really simple. It's going to be 2 minutes. It's a question of math. They have the right to develop their home. We welcome that, but they have to follow the variance. Look at the math. We're not even talking a reasonable amount. 15% is allowed, and now they're proposing 36.1. We appreciate it came down from 41, but we're not even close. The other percent is 5% and they're 33. So look at the math. Let's be real. Let's follow the rules. We are in a really dangerous situation here with stormwater. So if we keep on allowing things to happen, people get hurt. And these aren't just people in our township, but downstream. Our taxpayers will be dealing additionally with additional stormwater. So this is not just about this property. This is a greater problem outside of Newtown Square. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment? All right. Do we want to, I know we're not going to make a decision on this because we want to have a session, but do we want to close the record? If there's no additional testimony or?
They both rested, so yeah.
Okay.
Closed, public comment.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Take that all. Okay. And what, want to give you a packet?
Just to go on the record, we have application Z 2024-09 for Aronimink Golf Club. That application has been withdrawn. Our next application is Z 2024-05 Rockhill Real Estate in regards to 4005 West Chester Pike. This is also a application that was continued from last month. Who do we have here on behalf of this application? Right. Step forward. And I don't, come on up. Do you have any, I know the record was left open. Is there anything additional on this, or are you just looking for? We did close, okay, so you're just looking for a decision from the board. Can't be anything left to say, right?
I'll keep it short. I think at the last meeting. No.
Oh, no.
There was a recommendation by the solicitor of cross easements for access to the loading unloading facility that would be shared by the dealerships, and it's located on the Porsche dealership facility. We have no objections to putting in that cross easement. We had intended to do that in any event when we went for land development. If this board wishes to impose a condition of that nature, we're fine with that.
Okay.
And as far as the special exception, I think we've demonstrated that it complies with all the special exception requirements of the C1. And there were two precautionary variances. One was for the shared loading dock, which I think the specific provisions of the C1 for loading and unloading facilities allowed. And then there was a separate general facility. The one in C1 didn't require the parking garage or whatever to be on the same lot. It just merely said that every building's got to be provided with the ability to park vehicles or to load and unload at some space other than on the abutting roads. And we are doing that. The general provision said that each lot has to have a separate loading and unloading facility, which when you're dealing with, multiple dealership facilities on a contiguous tract of land, it's kind of silly if it can be shared, because you're just creating a lot more impervious ground coverage. And I would submit to the board that the C1 provisions address and accommodate that provision, that design concern. The general provision, I think the specific has got to govern over the general, and if it doesn't, we requested a variance because the principal user of this garage will be Porsche. A Ferrari is not going to generate, I don't think it's going to generate many cars that would be put into the garage. And plastic cars, if we ever get, when we come before this board, they're going to be kept either inside of the facility, and it's only 10 or 9, around 19 cars max that would be there, because these cars are going to go for between 100,000 to 15 million bucks a piece. And so.
No, I know we are rehashing some of the
Yeah,
stuff we went
yeah,
through. And I will
sure.
tell you, we are prepared to make a decision. We do have some contingencies
Right.
which we'll go through. So I don't want to go through everything and be here
Okay.
till 11:30 again. So
I'm done with it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve applications E20. Oh, I'm sorry, but is there public comment with the closed already? If we close already? Yeah, that's fine. If you, yeah.
My name is Joe McDonald and I live on Boot Road. And, a number of years ago, we had a lot of conversations with Porsche when they were going through their building, their current building. And the biggest concerns were any zoning changes that would move from residential zoning on Boot Road to commercial. And also the question about whether any traffic would flow out onto Boot Road from any of the Porsche properties. So I don't know if any of that is happening here, or if that's part of the property, or part of the plan. But there would be some concerns if any traffic would flow from this redefined space onto Boot Road, and also if any of the properties would be rezoned from residential to commercial.
Nothing is being rezoned, right? This is just none of that's in front of us now for what they're asking for, right? For the construction of the, yeah.
Part of this. And the traffic issue, go with it, like, development. This area is specifically.
Parking garage.
Right, I've just noticed that Rockhill has continued to buy property along
Yes.
Boot Road, and that's great, as long as they, my concern is that the activity, it remains on West Chester Pike and not onto Boot Road.
Any residential, any properties that are zoned residential are not touched by this application. And the ones that are on Boot Road, one has already a house built on it, one is vacant, and that's the one that the principal is going to build his own home to be there.
So 6 Boot Road and 16 Boot Road and 30 Boot Road, they're all the first properties that you see when you
Yeah.
go onto Boot Road. They all remain residential.
Yeah.
Very good.
And this facility has been designed to keep the traffic and the movement of vehicles on the complex itself, although they're separate
So no,
lots.
no outlets from the back of the
No.
properties will be onto Boot Road. That was really my question. I just was a late comer to the noticing the
Yep.
property, and I'll make sure that was clarified.
Any? Oh, put it on can of worms.
Hi, my name's Howard Walker. I live at 102 Howard Walker. I live at 102 Boot Road. I didn't realize that this was on the agenda last month, so I apologize for coming in late, but I just am worried about the aesthetic that a 3-story parking garage will put on West Chester Pike, especially in its location. One of the things I noticed, I drive to Newark, Delaware every day for work, and go by counting the Porsche dealer, 22 car dealerships of all different makes and models, right? Not a single one has a parking garage. So I question why it's needed. And if it's just needed to store vehicles, is it really an appropriate place for it? Like 3-story parking garage. You can buy a plot of land someplace else. Other dealerships figure out how to do it without building a parking deck someplace, especially right where it is. So I don't think a variance should be allowed for the Porsche dealership for that purpose. One of the other things too is Porsche has consistently been a bad neighbor. They have said to us multiple times that they would not have cars driven on our street. It consistently happens again and again. They've used that empty lot next to 16 Boot Road to store cars, mounds of dirt when the construction was going on, but we constantly have to call about it and call the township about it to have them send somebody out. And I just suspect that it's just a creep that's going to keep on getting pushed. They keep pushing us. When I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but when we met with the Porsche dealer here, the owner told us that after this expansion that is currently going on was finished, there would be no more. He told us to our face that that was happening, and lo and behold, a couple years later.
Well, there was an issue with the parking of the vehicles, and that's why this came about too.
Well, I
They
mean,
were
they
parking
can
them
find,
off of-
there can be another place, you can find other places to park the vehicles, it doesn't have to necessarily be on that property. And one other thing is 16 Boot Road is a residential house that Rockhill owns, and they're obviously using it as an office space. There's cars that are parked. I've called the township multiple times. We go by there, there's 10 cars parked in the lot, in the driveway every day. See people going in and out of the house. The township goes over, looks at it. You know, they do whatever they need to do to make it seem like they're not doing it, but we see it, like I see it all the time. I see people test driving down our street. My wife's chased them back to the Porsche dealership a couple times. My wife, and I'm just venting here, right? But I'm like, I don't think that we should go out of our way to make a variance as, residents of this township for a dealership that consistently goes against, or pushes the envelope, I should say, is what I'm trying to say. So I mean, I don't think this board, as citizens of Newtown Township, should approve this variance for them. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
I don't want you to think that we don't appreciate your input as I'm preparing to make a decision to approve this, because it's gonna seem like right after you saying that I'm saying I'd like to make a motion to approve it, but
Yeah, but
obviously.
how am I supposed to be, like, is the only way that I can figure out what's going on is to monitor the agendas every month? Like, I don't.
Were you not notified? Or you not
No.
within?
I was
200?
notified about the 14th, the Phillips Lane house that was just allowed, but we were never notified that this was on the agenda last month, or I would have been here.
Hmm.
I can't
I-
be expected to monitor it all.
No,
the time.
listen, I
mean,
understand
I'm
that. I'm
Directly
just-
impacted as
Properties outside of the 200 radius
Okay.
by ordinance.
They don't have
They
to,
won't get it.
okay.
But I'm directly impacted by it, by where I live. I see these cars racing up and down the street. And for us to like bend over backwards and approve a variance to put a structure on that's gonna change the whole aesthetic of West Chester Pike that no other dealership uses is, I don't agree with it. And I think as residents of as residents of the township should feel the same way.
Just the one point I want to make, sir, and I get what you're saying. I see on Bishop Hollow, I see on Providence Road, I see the Porsches, I see them cutting through Court Campus Boulevard. They drive around, but, so there's no confusion. To put the garage in, they're not asking for a variance, which is a strict standard, over which we have the discretion to say they meet certain criteria, they get it or they don't get it. But they're seeking a special exception, which is a different animal to put this garage in. And if they meet certain things, they get it. They get it.
Oh, I thought I read in the
There-
documents that
There are variances requested, but it doesn't relate to the garage. It relates to having grass area next to a parking lot, an off-street, discharge of the vehicles. But the actual physical structure is not a variance, it's a special exception. And once the applicant has met the criteria, we have to grant it to them.
All right, I was under the understanding that their zoning was just for parking garages that related to office complexes. Is that not the case?
It's not the case,
Okay. I'm just disappointed that,
but I get the frustration, but
yeah,
I want you to
because
understand.
I'm living this all the time. I just can't wait till one day these cars go racing down our street and they hit somebody, because it's gonna happen, especially if you put the Ferrari dealer in there. I mean, and these people don't live in our township, they're just here making money off of people, you know, going through a midlife crisis or wanting to, you know. But that's what it is. That's what you're buying those cars for. And it's just extremely frustrating as a neighbor to go through this. So, okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. So we are going to make a motion to approve applications E 2024-05 for the special exception of section 172-70L. Just for clarity, it was M on our document. I think we cleared up that it's L, and that's the special exception for the construction of the garage and relief for section 172-71E, which is the variance for the loading and unloading. And for 172-135B, for relief from the 5-foot setback at the front entrance of the garage. And then we do have some contingencies that I will turn over to Sam to highlight here.
Pending motion, I'd like to suggest a number of conditions for granting approval. The first one would be that all loading and unloading of vehicles shall be performed upon parcel number 1 designated as the Porsche dealership and individually delivered to the intended parking garage or outside designated parking areas. There should be no deliveries of any kind on West Chester Pike at any time.
Number 3, no repairs or washing of vehicles shall be conducted within the parking garage or surrounding exterior. Next, the applicant must obtain cross easement agreements filed of record with the Delaware County Recorder of Deeds for common utilization of all contiguous commercial parcels for vehicle movement and access to the subject property for common facilities and services. All construction must be in accordance with the testimony and the exhibits and the evidence that's presented by the applicant. Applicant shall obtain all necessary and required permits. There should be compliance with all codes, ordinances, and regulations of the state and/or local ordinances of Newtown. That the construction and development of the property should be at the direction and approval of Newtown zoning officers and building officials as designated. And that would be a suggested list of conditions for consideration by the board. And just because I don't want to ignore what just happened too, and I don't know if there's anything that we're able to add in terms of whatever this test drive route is or anything. I mean, if we're going to grant this to them, if there's something that could be done here to eliminate this, call it one, if their course of action, what they've taken, I don't know the answer here, but I mean, if we can somehow keep that. And here's the problem. I think when you look at this, a Porsche stands out, right? If you're living next to a Ford dealership, you wouldn't even notice the cars that are going by. And I get that that's what's happening here. And I don't want you to think we don't appreciate the input that was just provided by you. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. I think the Porsche dealership, now having been made aware of the circumstances, have to be. No, I know we can't, I don't want to make this a thing. I was just bringing this up because I don't. But, I'm just.
Well,
So, I mean,
I
is Porsche
think-
on notice then here to at least be respectful of this?
Well,
And again, I'm not doing this. I don't want to start opening up a can of worms. I want to respect what you said and I appreciate it. And I think that that's a legitimate concern.
I don't think this zoning hearing board has jurisdiction.
Okay, that's what I
over
wasn't sure.
Traffic safety or traffic control within the community.
Good enough.
That is a police matter. Somebody's speeding. This zoning board is not going to make a difference in that. Obviously, that's a concern for the neighborhood. It's a quality of life issue for you. I think we all understand that. But I don't think this board has the ability to control the traffic and what goes on the streets. That's obviously a jurisdictional police matter or a township matter. So they're here tonight. The officials are here, representatives of Porsche. And they've heard you, and we only hope that they want to be a good neighbor, and in doing so, they do their best to adhere to the rules of the road.
And so with all of that and me making a motion to approve that application and all the contingencies that were just applied, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you. We'll convey the neighbors' comments.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Meeting adjourned.